Hey everyone,
Hi!
and welcome to
Eat Your Anime!
I'm Jeff,
I'm Virginia.
and you might know us from being staff at Naka-Kon. I've often been the cosplay MC. You might see me, or have seen me during that. I have no idea when this is going to be performed during the weekend. Pre-recorded!
Very true. You may or may not have seen me much around the con. I generally work behind the scenes. I work in screenings. If you're a Fujoshi or Fudashi, you might know me from the Yaoi panel. Yeah. But we're not talking about that today, or at least not entirely.
Though Itadakimasu does come up in those stories quite often.
It does.
But we're here to talk about food in manga and anime.
And how it's sort of just become, it's a genre in and of itself.
Yeah.
Now, maybe the anime or manga that brought you into it was Sokake no Soma, also known as Food Wars. That is probably the most common one when people think of food anime these days.
Yeah, it is a show that is known well because it's been tracking well on Crunchyroll. I think it's even been on Netflix now. And it's even making its way to Toonami, I'm pretty sure. Which is good because that means there's a lot more eyes on the anime.
Long story short, pretty much once you're on Toonami, you're basically prime time. But if that's the only show that you've seen that involves food, we're going to talk about a whole lot more than just that tonight.
Yeah, I mean, we probably will talk about that because I have some things to talk about from it, but it is not the one that comes to mind first for me. Mostly because I grew up in a slightly older age of anime.
Shush, I'm perpetually 21.
That way she can still drink.
Yes.
But I have memories from when you were not quite 21 of going over to a friend's house to watch an older anime on fansub called
Cooking Master Boy. Oh god, those were the days. So just so that you get the full joke with this one, now, I would never suggest anyone get fan subs. But when one was a young teen, and that was the only way to get shows that weren't on Toonami because streaming services didn't exist yet. Oh, God, I'm old. Anyway, fan subs was the way most people went. And Cooking Master Boy was hilarious because the only version we could get a hold of was the Chinese dub.
Yeah, it was English subtitles on a Chinese dub of a Japanese cartoon.
Which kind of worked because the setting is in China, so...
Yeah. Cooking Master Boy is about a boy learning to be a masterful chef in China. In fact, there's actually been a recent continuation of the story available on Crunchyroll, I believe.
Yeah, I think it's Crunchy.
It's True Cooking Master Boy. And it basically picks up from where the previous one left off, I'm sure.
Yeah,
and
pretty much almost exactly.
Kind of Romance of the Three Kingdoms era, but food.
Mm-hmm. I think the first episode that I remember seeing of the new season was all about special chicken dishes, and it particularly talked about the Chinese chicken that's like got black meat.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I cannot remember what it's called, but you know.
Yeah, it's like the villagers thought it was a cursed chicken, but then the boy, the main character, whose name I can never remember, he's like, no, it's actually really delicious. And then made a bunch of dishes with it and won a festival, I believe.
Well, anyway, speaking of our early days, what was the show / manga, in my case, honestly, that got you into food anime?
Well, I kind of got into it in a roundabout way, because, there's different genres of manga based around the audience. Mm-hmm. Shoujo, shonen, seinen, josei.
Yeah, their general demographic that they're aiming for.
So I got into from shonen, I went to sports manga. From sports manga, I went to some older shonen titles, so like teen demographic.
Not quite seinen, but not really shonen anymore either.
The book that got me in was this one here. Iron Wakako-zake. Again, it's a Japanese comic, this time about a Chinese chef in Tokyo who comes in, this loudmouth, boisterous main character, never heard that one before. But
totally new archetype.
Yeah, he comes into a Chinese restaurant, shows off in the kitchen, shows off that he's got the skills. Makes faces at everybody because he's got that tough guy exterior. I mean, I would say he has a heart of gold, but he really doesn't. Please ignore the cat noises.
They don't exist.
But Iron Walk John began with your standard, basically, honestly, kind of a Ratatouille story in that his main villain or antagonist throughout the entire series is a food critic who, similar to Food Wars, was a tongue of God kind of person. And
yes.
He hated John's personality, but his food was delicious, but he would never admit it. But you would never see Iron Walk John being shipped with that guy, I don't think.
Oh.
It's a little out there.
Not
even
my
for,
thing, no, but it might be on somebody's radar.
Yeah, one way you can tell it's a teenage shonen story is this had some of the earliest designs which are more realistic but similar to current One Piece designs for the women.
Oh God!
Where they are basketballs on. Hey.
Where are their organs? We don't know. They don't know. So
they're in the kitchen.
For me, one of the ones that I first read and watched was
Yep, that was my second.
Yakitate Japan, which is about bread, hence the wonderful and puns.
Yeah, bread, puns, and before Food Wars, all the reactions. And more reactions than just clothes flying off.
Let me see if I can find a good one.
But the main pun in the story is Yakitate Japan means let's bake Japan, and pan in Japanese is like the French. Pan means bread. So let's bake Japanese bread. And one of the first things that he does is he makes a Mount Fuji
right there.
Naan, actually. So it's a non-pan.
Oh God, I forgot how horrible and wonderful the puns were. So, one of the things about this one, our main character, his special ability
Azuma Kazuma.
Yes, Azuma Kazuma. He has
Hands of God.
Solar hands. They were called solar hands. His hands were warmer than your average person. Therefore, bread rose better. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here with fingers and toes that make people freeze. I could not make good bread, I guess.
No. You would need more, really.
Oh. I walked right into that one, didn't I?
Mm-hmm. Walk is that one. The puns often come up in food, and I love them for that reason as well.
I'm still looking for one of the hilarious reactions.
Our main judge in the first thing is known for reacting well, which means that eventually every judge in all of these, because Yakitate Japan is a food tournament manga similar to Food Wars.
Yeah. With a little less drama and a bit more humor.
Yeah.
And a little less
it's a little less
edgy.
It's a little less edgy. There's one character that wears a bikini for one section of stuff.
Yeah.
But and it's a lot of good character development all around, and different techniques that are learned. And you have a guy with glasses. And in the anime, one of the closing theme song has by one of my favorite artists from Japan, which is Sold Out. So.
Oh, I just remembered one of the first things he has to do is make bread that horses like.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a weird one, but it's hilarious. Yeah. The horse's reaction to delicious bread. Yeah, it's a unique one. Mm-hmm. But it is a good read and pretty hilarious. If you can find the anime, it's really, really good.
The anime is out through Right Stuff's brand Nozomi. So check out rightstuff.com. Often been a sponsor for Naka-Kon, so I'm proud to support them.
At the end of most episodes, they'll generally throw in a recipe. One of the ones that I particularly remember, and I had wanted to make, but life got ahead of me. was how to make a loaf of bread in the rice cooker, which you can find a whole lot online to that recipe. So I would check it out. It's pretty cool.
Yep. I mean, so those were some of the earlier ones that we came into contact with. Another early one, I believe, is a shoujo title, which I bought this from a friend, but I haven't had a chance to read it myself. Like this one is from originally from 2005. That's not too new actually, but it's Kitchen Princess. It's a sparkling shoujo manga about a girl who wants to make sweets. The art is vaguely clampish, if you know what that means. It's a little bit exaggerated clamp.
It's of an age.
Yeah. But she wants to bake things, and she likes to make meals for people that she likes. And so she wants to make people happy by baking for them, and it's really cute.
Another older series that I remember you particularly liking, but sadly we couldn't find the manga for it. He owns it, we just couldn't find it. Was Oishinbo.
Mm-hmm. Oishinbo is another series where the main character is at odds with another outside presence. This one, he's at odds with his father, who is I think he's a food critic or a restaurant guy, and he works for a newspaper. So they go around and interview people about food and things. And the English version is released differently from the Japanese version of Oishinbo, because the English version was put out by topic. So if you want to get a topic of just about alcohol or just about sushi or about noodle dishes, you can do that. Which it's not an big overarching story manga, so the episodic way works for it. Mm-hmm. But it's still a little annoying to me. But it's still a really good story, and you're bound to learn stuff as you read it, including, there's a whole thing just about how to cook rice properly. There's a whole chapter where they go to a guy's rice field, and they learn about how to properly wash rice and how to prepare it so that each grain is good, kind of thing. It's definitely, Oishinbo is a seinen or a men's manga, so it's sold to an older male audience.
When you find it, I might need to read it from you. One of the things that you may have noticed that's a continuing sort of similarity between some of these is a lot of the early food anime and manga were very much geared towards like the much like Sogeki no Sama with the food competitions, or you're having to go up against each other, or you have a nemesis in a food critic or another chef.
Yeah, like both Yakitate Japan and Iron Walk Jean are both food competition manga.
Yeah,
where there are multiple tournament arcs.
And the same with Cooking Master Boy. It's very similar. Most of the story arcs in that involve him having to have some sort of cooking battle, either with somebody in a town or for in one of them to become the, I think it was the, oh god, I'm trying to remember the whole overall arcing story between in the first one, which was him basically going to a major food battle to be labeled as the basically best cook in the
provinces.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
And which is where it starts up in the new one, because he's already earned that title. But
yeah. In the current release, he already has that title, and you can watch it in Japanese with English subtitles, streaming.
One of the things one of the things that's interesting though is over time, some of the genres have sort of changed, especially once they started adding in more shoujo and aimed at a female audience titles. Much like your Kitchen Princess, a lot of those aimed much more about not just making food, but the meaning of eating food with other people. Mm-hmm. And the social aspect of it.
Making food for specific people, not just making good, delicious, powerful food, but like the one that's coming to mind for me is this one on the bottom right here.
Yes.
Which is
Sweetness and lightning.
About a teacher and his daughter who he's learning to cook for her, in part with his student whose family owns a restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
And it is super cute. I highly recommend this because the anime is also so adorable.
Be warned, it is so cute you will rot your teeth.
Yeah.
It is adorable. On manga that's on a similar vein, could you hand me our dining table? It's sort of fallen behind.
Yeah.
You can reach it. You can do it. And this one is technically a BL title, but it much more focuses on the aspect of eating with people. It does focus on the food and the joy of different types of food, but one of the big things that it focuses on is eating together as a family, eating together with other people. Which a lot of more geared towards a female audience series are about. Another one that I highly recommend is Kakuryou. We're getting in a bit more of a fantasy genre now, but it still goes in the food theory category. The anime is absolutely gorgeous. I highly recommend it. Long story short, the basic plot is our main character, Aoi, her grandfather, who raised her, basically wound up with a debt to a demon, and through various circumstances that part of the underlying plot is finding out what those circumstances were, she was part of his payment. So she gets kidnapped by the demon, who's going to take her as his bride, and she's absolutely against that because she doesn't even know this guy. So instead she's going to work off her grandfather's debt. Well, the only thing that she can do is pretty much cook. She hasn't finished college yet because she is actually a college student. So she is older. And because her grandfather taught her how to cook. And one of the things that she was always taught, because she was born with the sight, is if you come across a hungry demon, offer them food before they try to eat you.
That's a good way to be. If you're coming across a hungry demon, feed them first before they eat you. That's a good lesson for anyone.
It is. It is. Consequently, a lot of her meals are much more simple and traditional. But it focuses on the feeding and the importance of attention to detail and the, once again, relationship you can get by eating with other people. Let me find a good one. The art is hilarious and beautiful. Funny. Okay. I'm trying to find a picture of her cooking, but this is the first volume, so there's a lot of non-cooking involved.
Mm-hmm. And while you're going over that, there's another similar to that about cooking for people and also providing, a recent one that's been on streaming anime and also light novel and manga is Restaurant to Another World.
Oh, God, I love that one.
Where a chef from Japan has a shop that once every while will have a door in another part of another area in a fantasy realm, and all these different fantasy races of people will come in and eat things, and they have their own specialties of what they like best, whether it's tempura shrimp or trying to remember what the
eggs, the omelets for the lizard people.
Yeah, these
people
love omelets.
And it focuses on the joy of eating,
mm-hmm.
the joy of food, as well as, in some of these, in one of the underlying plot points in that one is some of the doors happen all over the fantasy world that it connects to, and in some characters, it's literally a lifeline.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just interesting. I found a good picture of this one with some of the art and delicious looking food. But it's absolutely adorable and I love it. Highly recommend that one. Yeah. Also, if you haven't read or seen any of Restaurant to Another World, you need to.
Okay.
On that note,
I mean, right now I'll go ahead and see if we can do a quick cutaway. If this works well, what you're about to see is another pre-recorded segment where we did some katsudon, which fans of Yuri on Ice will know well that what a pork cutlet bowl is.
Yes.
So I'm hopefully going to say that this will work. Enjoy this cooking segment here. Today we'll be making katsudon, the pork rice dish from Yuri on Ice. It would involve pork chops, onion, green onion, han dashi to make a little bit of dashi stock, panko, eggs, canola oil for frying, a touch of sugar, and rice for the rice bowl portion. Delicious. The path of the pork chop shall be delicious. Got a flattened dry pork chop. Go into the flour. You flip in the flour. Coat the pork chop. Coat it. And then give it a nice egg bath. Eggy bath. Shake it off. Shake it off. Then into your crunchy panko. Press it down into the panko. Crunchy pork chop. And then from here into your hot wok of oil. And lay it away from you. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle.
A few moments later.
and for those curious, this is just a baking sheet with paper towels and a cookie rack. You want to put paper towels under it just for ease of cleanup.
And now we're going to get rid of most of this oil, and I'm going to toss in some of the sliced onions I got to caramelize those up before making up the katsudon sauce and all the omelet stuff. Meanwhile, and we're also going to be slicing the pork chops because katsudon is served with sliced pork cutlet.
Now, how are we going to safely get rid of this hot grease? Oil. It's oil, not grease. Don't listen to me.
Yeah, it is canola oil. And we're going to put it into a aluminum can and freeze it, and then throw it away later.
Don't put it directly down your pipes.
Safety tips with Naka-Kon. For our sauce that we're going to make, I'm going to have this ready so that when I do the onions are all ready, it'll be good with the mirin. Get about a tablespoon or so. I'm going to do about the same of some soy sauce. And then we made up our little dashi stock earlier. And I'm going to pour in about a quarter cup worth of that. And about a teaspoon of sugar, give or take. And that'll be our sauce. Stir, stir, stir. Sweet sauce. And now, sliced onions going into hot oil pan. Separating up the onions so that they can cook well.
Now what we're aiming for with the onions is a nice good caramelization. The way you know that they're ready is when an onion starts to caramelize, it's going to get a bit more clear and see-through and just a little bit brown on the edges. You can over caramelize. I prefer my onions like that. But if you go too far over, you wind up with charcoal. So do keep that in mind.
Onions are looking pretty well caramelized, so I'm going to add a little splash of sake for some flavor. Kids, the alcohol cooks out, but still have any parents do it. In fact, your parents should be doing this anyway, or an adult, or someone who's responsible. Someone responsible. Okay. Up next, we have the mirin soy sauce and sugar, and the dashi that we put together. Gonna spread that around to bubble up a little bit. This makes katsudon is a little bit sweet, a little bit salty, very tasty. I'm gonna turn my heat back up a little bit. If you could smell this now, you would be too close. All right. Bit on the end is always more favorite. Bite-sized strips of pork. Delicious. Alright, so now that we have this is cooked down a little bit, I'm going to add in our pork chop that we've cut up. Our little cutlet. Just going to slide them on in. Yeah, it didn't work as well as I thought it would, but life's full of mistakes and delicious ones. So get that lined up as best I can. And then I'm going to, because we still have some egg from before, I'm going to use that. And just put some egg around to this. And that will set up that bit of our katsudon sauce. You can turn the heat up just a skosh, and as the egg sets up, it'll become delicious. Alright, eggs looking nice and firmed up. It's moving, got some good movement to it. Time has come for the rice bowl to become whole, sliding, joining the egg, the pork chop, and the rice. I've done better in the past, I promise. Delicious.
It all looks the same in the stomach anyway.
Delicious. And now, to decorate the katsudon. That was not it. Bit of green onion right on top, and just to add a little bit of extra crunch and saltiness, I like to add some nori because delicious. Now the time has come to eat. Alright, wasn't that great?
It was as delicious as it looked.
Yeah, it was very good, and I need to make it again multiple times, you know, just to get the recipe perfectly correct.
Now, when we left you, we had talked about Restaurant to Another World. Another one, called Otherworldly Izakaya Nobu, is pretty much along the same vein. The only real difference is its door only opens into one town. But it's...
What does izakaya mean again?
It's basically like a Japanese pub/restaurant.
Okay.
It's a bit...
Like a more condensed...
yeah. They sell beer and alcohol snacks and food. Not necessarily big meals, but things that one would eat with alcohol. One of the things that you learn in a wonderful little anime short that had an anime and then it later had a live action, Wakako-zake?
Wakako-zake.
What he said. And it is all about pairing
food and alcoholic beverages. It comes from a josei series, I believe.
Which is aimed more at adult women.
Yeah. So, and it's about the anime is about pairing a meal with an alcohol, and the live action apparently got sponsored because it actually talks about real restaurants in different areas of Tokyo, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So, they're both really good. I forget where the live action was streaming, but I think it's on Crunchyroll, I'm pretty sure.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. Our assistant off camera made a big C.
So
I'm
then
thinking
he's
it's
probably
Crunchyroll.
right.
Or Verve, if you have that one.
And I believe Nobu, the anime for that, was on Crunchyroll as well. And if you watch the anime for that one, because it's a short, the anime is only I think 10 minutes long per episode or less. But it's a full 20-minute episode because the other half is with a live-action chef teaching you a recipe.
All right, that's going on my watch list because that sounds great.
Oh, have you never watched this one?
I don't think I have. It's on the list.
Poor thing.
Yeah, I will be today's 10,000.
It's a good one.
I mean, honestly, I think we have to go from there to Delicious
and Dungeon.
Which is...
Now, we have a lot of real life and realistic foods in various fantasies.
And then even in Nine Rock Jean, where they go really out there in the later chapters with things like having to corral and butcher your own ostrich.
Because, every chef does that.
Yeah, and so they have different ways of doing that, and also ways to...
Don't get kicked.
Yeah. Yeah, because... But then you have actual monsters in eating them.
As the ingredients. So if you have not read Delicious in Dungeon, go out and get it now. It is licensed by Yen Press. It is basically your standard Japanese D&D dungeon crawler type setup. Mm-hmm. Where the characters lost all their rations.
Yeah,
so
in some ways it's similar to Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon? Because everyone goes into this one dungeon, basically, and has to go exploring. Except...
they wind up eating the monsters they kill. Nothing goes to waste.
Yeah, the setup is the main character's sister was eaten by a dragon, but it takes a dragon a long time to digest someone.
And they can always resurrect her.
Yeah, as long as they can get her, they can resurrect her. If they go in, take down the dragon, and get her out. Luckily, they run into a dwarf in the dungeon who's been living there for a while and knows secret recipes, like how to prepare slimes.
They also give you wonderful recipes for the things they cook. For instance, we have huge scorpion and walking mushroom hot pot. Ingredients,
Delicious.
serves 3 to 4. Huge scorpion, 1. Walking mushroom, 1. Mushroom feet, 2. Seaweed, Arctic moss, and star jelly to taste. Invertatos, which is a random vegetable that grows there. About 5 medium ones. A dried slime, as much as you like. And water to taste.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm going to give you a very small spoiler just because it amuses me so much. But apparently, animated armor is a mollusk.
So's a mimic.
Yeah. And you can fry mimic eggs, which look like coins, to look like jeweled candy coins.
It's hilarious and amazing.
Yeah.
Mwah.
The character interactions are easily as good as all the food interactions.
And if you're a D&Der, even if you're not into anime, this is something you'll enjoy.
Yeah. If you like Slayers, also pick up this.
And if you are D&Der, the next character you make will be our main knight, and you'll just be the bane of your DM's existence because you'll want to eat everything you kill.
If you're also big into D&D, you will be aware that there was a recent feat added in a recent source book called Chef. My character has it. That's partially why.
That's glorious. I didn't know that. But it is one I highly, highly recommend.
Yeah.
I cannot. I want this to get licensed and animated so bad. I can scarcely contain myself. But
And, I mean, there's also cooking things in shows that aren't about cooking. I mean, there's a whole filler arc in One Piece where they they snuck into a Navy facility and Sanji cooks food for the Navy.
what season is that in? How did I miss?
It's an earlier season, I believe.
Oh, I've just forgotten it.
Yeah,
Because
it's been
it's
years.
been so long.
But
It's been 84 years.
yes, Wendy. But I mean, and nowadays you have the artists behind Shokugeki no Soma have now come out with 2 chapters on shonenjump.com for Shokugeki no Sanji.
Yes, I read them. They're pretty wonderful. But back onto more realistic cooking.
Which one do you want?
Let's see. Let's actually talk about. Do we want to do Gohan or do we want to do?
Let's do your 3 because you have 3 related books there.
Okay, so if you are Fujoshi at all, you will recognize the name of Fushi Yoshinaga. She has done quite a lot of BL. She's also done Antique Bakery, which is technically not one, though one of the characters is actually gay. I would name it much more actually a slice of life than in a BL genre.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's not a BL story.
No.
Like, but there's a gay guy in it.
Yeah.
So, but
And it's well represented.
And honestly, he defies a lot of the usual anime unhealthy stereotypes about gay men, which I love. I mean, he's effeminate in a way, but not acting out like a lot of
her characters are that way, even in her BL.
Yeah, but also it's about a boxer that joins a bakery for part-time work and learns about delicious food, and I love it.
And it is wonderful. The main character is in fact a boxer, and a lot of it goes about the various different pastries and the interactions that the people have within the bakery, because it's kind of like a coffee shop, but it's a tea shop.
Yeah.
And it's a little hole in the wall, and it's important to a lot of people. Consequently, she has a couple other series that focus a lot on food. We have Not Love, but Delicious Food Makes Me Happy. This one is one of her josei titles. The main character is, I believe, a mangaka herself, or is she a writer?
I can't. It's been so long since I've read that one. I really should have refreshed my memory on these.
You should have. For shame, Jeff.
But
anyway, it's mostly about the fact that her main drives, aside from her work and her work, is her passion for food. Kind of like the mangaka herself. She has a couple main loves, her manga and food. One of the other series that she's had that focuses solely on food is What Did You Eat Yesterday? The 2 main characters are a gay couple. This is also another one that I would not put in the BL genre. It's much more slice of life. The fact that they are partners is secondary to the food that they make. Most chapters in this one actually all have a recipe for some of the food that they had. And sometimes it's just about how to reheat your leftovers so that they're good. It's much more slice of life. It's quite wonderful.
I forgot about how... So, that one has actual recipes in it. I forgot. This one has maps and tells you where she's eating.
Yeah. Like I said, her main loves are her manga and food. So consequently, she tries to work those into a lot of her works all the time. This one has up to, I think, 14 or 15 out at the moment.
Yeah. I'm not sure how many are in the States so far, but most
this is what's been released in the States.
Well, yeah, but have they all been released?
No, she's still writing it.
Oh, well then never mind.
Yeah, and it's by Vertical.
Yeah, Vertical does some great stuff. Yen Press for this one.
This one was, oh Lord.
7 Seas or
DMP.
Yeah.
It's old.
Yeah, so it's probably been re-released by now.
I know you can still get it on Right Stuff.
Yeah, Right Stuff. Check it out. God Anime?
And that brings us into another genre of cute girls making a delicious food. There's quite a lot in this genre. Sadly, not a lot of it has been licensed yet. They're just starting to license some of them. This one is Gal Gohan. It's about a Galu. Oh my god, I just pronounced that horribly wrong.
Yeah.
Garu. And...
So, a Japanese, generally teen girl who tans a bunch and bleaches her hair for the style.
Her love for cooking and her relationships with her friends and... Is it her senpai or her teacher? And her teacher, which isn't necessarily ecchi in any way, but you know, it's geared for a male audience, so take it as you will.
I mean, let's be honest. I've read of some of the more further along chapters of Sweetness and Lightning, and that's also a bit of teacher stuff too.
Not surprised. It's a taboo topic that you know a lot of people love to touch on.
But we were talking about food that goes well with alcohol earlier.
Oh, yes.
And before we get to that one, actually, I want to talk about one of those foods.
Oh, yes.
Fried chicken.
Oh, yes, karage. Karage goes great with alcohol. It goes great with a lot of things.
And you may have seen that the Food Wars episodes about where Yukihira was trying to revitalize a karage restaurant at a train station, I believe, and was helping a young chef figuring out the proper ways to do that. Well, we attempted that recipe, and it came out really well.
It was a good attempt.
We didn't go full take it with you style. We didn't make the crepes that go along with it, but I did fry up delicious chicken, and we're gonna try and splice that one in right here. And I hope... Sorry, my mouth is watering again. And it was really tasty again, like the katsudon. So I'm going to go try and cut it in right about here.
That's our recipe for karage. And our ingredients are over here. Onions, apples, chicken, and spices. Yum. It's really good to have your spices all measured out beforehand. Sake and soy sauce for the liquid portion, and then we will blend with the onion and the apple. Time to chop. 1, 2, 3. We've added the apple and onion to our blender to process our food. Adding the sake and soy sauce. Adding our homemade garlic salt from garlic powder and salt. Adding our cayenne pepper. Adding the black pepper. And adding more salt. Rock of life. And now we put on the lid and we blend. We have the start of a good-looking marinade puree.
20 minutes later.
Now we've marinated our chicken for 20 to 30 minutes, and we've covered it all in a layer of cornstarch. The recipe calls for potato starch, but we're more likely to have cornstarch in the kitchen, so that's what we used. And now I'm going to carefully go into our 350-degree wok oil and cook each piece for about 5 minutes. I'm going to turn the heat up a little bit as I cook, because as I add the chicken in,
it will slowly reduce the temperature of the oil. That should be enough for the moment. These will cook for about 5 minutes, and I'll turn them over a time or two, lift them up so they get a good twice fried crunch by coming up out of the oil and back in again. Bubbles, bubbles, bubbles. You can already see the crust forming a good bit as we go. It has a different kind of crunch than a flour-crusted fried chicken. It's a bit crisper. And the pepper is going to give it a little bit of heat as you munch into them. You can also do a proper deep fry in a much deeper layer of oil with a fry basket. But this is what I felt like doing today. Works well. Brought our fried karage over to a drying rack at the moment to get the excess oil off and let them cool down a bit before we enjoy them. By now our first batch of karage should be cool enough to taste. You can look at that nice crunchy texture of that. That is cooked really well. We've now plated up our karage. Go ahead and give it a tap to show that crispiness. So crispy. Alright, now taste test from my assistant.
We have a little bit of bulldog sauce here. Oh, that's good.
Very good.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you to Yukihiro Soma. Hope you all enjoy it. I mean, that was also delicious. So hopefully
Welcome
you enjoyed
back.
the, transitions are not my strong suit, but whatever. But now we're back, and welcome to the next section
of our talking about food, manga, and anime. The karage was delicious. I was honestly surprised with how well the frying it with cornstarch instead of flour worked so well.
It makes a very different breading and crunch than the flour that we're used to in most Western cooking.
And I will admit, the very next day, at my house, I ended up doing it on chicken breast meat.
Oh, huh?
And also tossing it with a sauce, so like stir fry style, and made some honey walnut chicken.
Ooh.
And it was really good, and the crunch on the breading on that held the sauce really well.
Oh, I bet it did.
So it was a good sweet and soy sauce.
Speaking of sweet things, we haven't talked about desserts yet.
Well, we did kind of.
Kind of, sort of.
But
desserts and
bacon.
candy.
Yeah.
Candy. If candy and snacks is more your speeds, I would highly recommend Tagashi Gashi. It focuses on more traditional Japanese, like dime store type snacks. It is hilarious. The first season is the one I honestly recommend. The second season, they changed the format, and it's a little jarring, but a lot of people who really liked it still loved it a lot. I don't think the manga's been licensed. No, the manga has not been licensed, which is why I'm showing you the anime.
Yeah, and the figure. Up
Oh,
there.
yes, up there.
Yep.
And down there.
A similar convenience store style, not quite food show, but similar in some ways. Like, you showing off that made me think of this one. Bento was a lot of fun.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about Bento!
I mean, Bento is more about, it's kind of food because it relates to the eating factor. It's a show about.
But it's still totally a battle show.
Yeah, it's a fighting show. It's like Air Gear. It's a street fighting show that takes place in a grocery store.
Over food.
But it's all about fighting for the most discounted delicious bento. So, and it is called Bento. I believe it is available on Funimation's streaming service.
It's a hoot to watch.
It is hilarious and well worth watching at least once.
Agreed. 100% agreed. There's so many other things I want to talk about, but they're not licensed.
Yeah, it's harder to bring up all the topics that we would want to, because we want you to be able to enjoy them.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Back to the, and then we're going to return to our alcohol talk. And so there's the one that I brought earlier, which is
the Drops of God.
Again, a seinen. I'm fairly certain a seinen because it was originally.
Yeah, it's by Vertical. I'm pretty sure based off of art, it's totally a seinen.
It's gorgeous art. Not sure how well you can see that, but I mean, it's about a guy that learned from his dad how to taste wine and treat wine well. Of course, like many stories, that led him to reject wine and work for a beer company.
Oh.
But he still retains all of his training on identifying wines, and then, like many things, his dad passes away and leaves him and another protege, and the will to determine who gets the father's inheritance is by who can go out and, based on basically riddles, figure out what these gems of wine are.
The joy of convoluted plots.
So he has to go around and figure out what each of these chosen wines that his dad picked out as the best wines ever made. And...
Well, I mean, I can see why it went to beer out of wine when your dad makes you eat dirt so that you can identify earthy tones. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't want to drink wine either.
But you can... Lots of panels of him just thinking in the air, but just the way it's drawn, I mean, I'm going to get closer so that you can see how well drawn just these bottles of wine are. Or a decanter. It looks so good. Even that caviar looks really good. And I don't even like fish eggs.
So yeah, if you like alcohol and that's your thing, I would highly recommend Drops of God and Wakako-zake.
Wakako-zake. Wakako-zake.
That one.
Yeah, which is available on Crunchyroll.
Mm-hmm. It's
at
on
least for the
Crunchy.
anime, and I think the
Yeah, the live action's on that one too. Yeah.
But
Speaking of live actions.
live action and back to sweets.
Yes, back to sweets. This one is on Netflix. And if you haven't watched this one, you need to, because it brings in, it's, how do I put this? It is the best live action that I have ever seen that does the over-the-top anime reactions, and somehow it works.
Mm-hmm.
And it is called Sweet Salaryman.
Yeah. I've only seen the first episode with you so far, but
it's glorious.
the premise: a high-paid salaryman who changes his job to work for a publishing company,
A very small publishing
a
company.
small publishing company, so that he can go around and make the trips to various vendors and do them quickly, so that he has time to enjoy these
Very different local sweets. And his reactions to eating these sweets. So you thought the reactions in Food Wars were weird. If you've read Yakitate Japan, you're going, oh wow, those are over the top. No.
Wait till you see that in live action.
No, they are not. Not compared to Sweet Salaryman, and it's live action. It is glorious.
Yeah, it is
It
well worth a
also
watch.
really makes me want to eat Japanese sweets.
Yeah.
Speaking of, another anime that is on Crunchyroll, and I think it just recently got licensed too, the manga. Oh my god, my brain just died. Okay, I remembered it! It's Yatsuri Bayori is also on Crunchyroll. It is about a Japanese sweet shop and coffee shop, and it's just beautiful and wholesome and has a big old fat cat, and it's just wonderful. You should check it out too.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
We've been rambling a lot. So
So much rambling.
but you know what sounds like rambling?
What?
Ramen.
You're right. Rambling does sound like ramen. Speaking of ramen, if you haven't read this one, it's called Miss Koizumi Loves Ramen. The anime is on, I believe, Crunchyroll.
Also Crunchyroll.
Also Crunchyroll. A lot of things are on Crunchyroll. Let's hope it stays that way. Anyway, this is the manga. It is literally about a character whose main love in life is various ramens.
Basically, the most popular, prettiest girl in school loves ramen. And the main characters are actually this other girl that wants to get closer to her.
So she starts going out to eat with her. And can't understand how she's able to eat it all. For instance, this is her first meal. And I say first because I believe they go to another one after that.
Yeah. She
But-
tends to get extra noodles because that's what you do.
Mm-hmm. And if I remember correctly, a lot of the restaurants that are listed in Koizumi Loves Ramen are actual restaurants.
Oh, similar to the other one, Not Just Love, but Delicious Foods.
Yes, not just loves, but delicious foods. Yep, very similar. Matter of fact, in one of the chapters, she makes a special trip to go to a ramen shop that's famous in Okinawa.
Oh, wow.
And
That's
then in another one, she goes to Hokkaido. And pretty much think of a regional ramen. She winds up going there because she wants to have that particular ramen. It's wonderful, it's hilarious, and it will really make you want to go to a ramen shop.
Mm-hmm. And there's this little bit of slight Yuri tones.
Yeah,
but,
slight Yuri
but
tones.
More like Girl Crush. I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, I'd say more of a girl crush, but
Whatever.
you can
Yeah.
slash anything. Table X chair, go for it.
I mean, chopstick X chopsticks brings ramen right to me.
oh God.
I have no idea why I'm still allowed to be around these people. But does that make you want to drink?
It does. It does. We're gonna go back to drinking because, we can't be in a linear line. Everything has to be all over. But drinking and relationships brings me to a wonderful little short that came out a couple years ago called Love is Like a Cocktail. And it is literally about the woman is one of the breadwinner, the wife is one of the biggest breadwinner in the family, and she has a very, hard, gung-ho, stressful job that she's really, really, really good at. Her husband works at a little bar, and he's the bartender. And every day when she comes home, he makes her a new cocktail. And it's super cute because she gets drunk super easy, which is part of why he does it, because that way she could unwind. And it's just adorable. And the stuff he makes looks really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, another, like, wind down relaxation drinking show is Takanomi, again on Crunchyroll. And it's, I think, another Josei show, because the entire cast is all women. Like, a bunch of roommates. I don't think they're sisters, but I can't remember exactly, because they focus so much on the alcohol that they drink.
Yeah.
It's like, whether it's a hard oolong tea or just a straight up beer, they go into why this is good to help you relax from this thing.
Hard oolong tea.
That does sound really good. A nice barley oolong.
Oh. Sorry, I just remembered upstairs I've got hard sweet tea.
Okay.
Anyway, another one that has that focuses on the alcohol aspect in the drinking is a show called literally Bartender, and it is shockingly about a bartender.
Yeah, he's one of those special anime tropes where if you go to him, he will solve your problem by giving you a good drink.
There is no cat meowing at the door. You hear nothing.
Yeah. It's been a while it's been a couple years since I've seen Bartender, but I remember it being very, very good.
Mm-hmm. But speaking of alcohols, and moving on to a slightly different genre, so a lot of the story manga and anime that we've talked about, we've talked about the
enjoyment of food,
the enjoyment of food, the fighting with food.
Yeah, fighting through tournaments of food. We've talked about various, like, making food for people you care about, making food because it's just tasty. And now let's take a step further back.
And this is a small genre that actually got quite a few shows in it. It's about where your food comes from. The two biggest ones that I can think of, which are both on Crunchyroll.
I know Silver Spoon is.
I believe Moyashiman is too, or at least it used to be.
Silver Spoon takes place at an agricultural college in Japan, and it's by the same creator as Full Metal Alchemist.
Oh yeah, it is.
So if you like Full Metal Alchemist, this one is another show that has a good, wide cast of characters that are great to be around, but it's about farming. And there is the main character. It comes from a Tokyo family, moves to the farm to get away from them, and like, this has got to be better than where I came from. And I mean, one of my favorite episodes is where they discover and rebuild a pizza kitchen, and all the various clubs on campus contribute to make a delicious pizza. No, pizza oven in the woods. It's a pizza oven in the woods.
See, the first one that I remembered was when the poor city boy first finds out where eggs come from.
Yeah. We will not tell you where eggs came from. We will let you look that up yourself. Because we had to go through that ourselves.
It's really good, and I very much enjoy it. It also introduces you to a whole different microculture within Japan, which is basically the agricultural college, which the U.S. has something similar, but not in the same way that Japan does. Japan's schooling can be very different than U.S. schooling, particularly in their agricultural college, where it's not just farming and agriculture work, but the agricultural colleges are also where most of the veterinary colleges are.
Mm-hmm.
Not that that's related to food, it's just interesting fact.
Yeah. I mean, and the other show that we mentioned besides Silver Spoon is Moyashiman, which the secret behind the main character is that he can see bacteria.
He can see not just bacteria. He can see microbes of any kind, whether they be viral or bacterial. Superpower I kind of wish I had right now in the middle of a pandemic.
It'd be really good. It's like, oh, don't touch that one. It's got a coronavirus on top of it. I know that because it's adorable. Why is it adorable? It wants to kill me.
Something actually very similar happens in the manga. I will say that all of the microbes are 110% adorable.
Yeah.
But in was it salmonella? I think it was salmonella.
It may have been salmonella.
Anyway, long story short, they're at an agriculture college. They all banded together to make their afternoon lunch meal. A bunch of different not clubs, departments band together. Well, one of the guys who was in charge of making the coleslaw didn't wash his hands.
Could have been E. coli then.
It was E. coli. That was it. It wasn't salmonella. It was E. coli.
Yeah.
And he sees the E. coli and stops everybody from getting sick.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a whole arcs of... Since it's microbes, there's a lot of things about fermentation in it, from making sake to even kiviak, which is I believe, Icelandic traditional food.
Yep, it is a fermented seagull inside a fermented seal. So kind of like...
buried underground.
Kind of like a more horrifying turducken.
Yeah.
But apparently to people that, to many Icelanders, very good. Of course, Icelanders also eat fermented sharks, so...
Yeah. I mean, everything...
Which they actually talk about in one of the chapters.
I mean, if it's fermented enough, maybe it'll get you drunk.
That is true. Speaking of drinking, one of the major plot points in Moyashiman is the main character's best friend. His family runs a sake brewing company, and they've been doing it for generations. And his best friend, I think he wants to become the best he can, or
There's always someone that wants to be the best. There ever was.
He wanted to be the best, and then he goes off to college and realizes that's not really what he wants to do. But it's a lot of fun, and you've got more wacky characters and crazy professors.
Yeah, if you've ever been at a convention and you've seen strangely large, adorable microbes around, it's probably from Moyashiman.
Yep. I have a little one somewhere, but I
Yeah.
don't think I have him out for display.
Not just yet, but...
Nope.
Yeah, but it's very good.
There are some more in that genre, but I can't remember.
I can't recall how many of them are
Licensed.
out licensed right now.
The problem is all the ones that I can think of off the top of my head are not licensed.
Yeah. Well, I think it's about time for us to probably wind things down. So we're gonna say, enjoy eating your anime, and your delicious manga. Manja your manga. That should have been the name. It's too late now, but manja your manga is something I'm gonna keep in mind for next time.
Anyway, have a good day, and I hope we at least entertained you or gave you some new information. Hopefully, if you haven't read or seen some of these series, we've piqued your interest, and you should go get them.
Yep. Check out Right Stuff, Crunchyroll, Funimation, High Dive even, I'm sure, has some of these.
Oh, yeah. Whatever
So-
your preferred streaming service is.
Yeah, Hulu and Netflix.
Yep.
So check them out, watch them, enjoy them, and itadakimasu.
Itakimasu!